thanks to everybody who's logged on. This is the City of North St. Paul Casey Lake resident update meeting. We're just waiting for a few more people to join us. So I thank you for hanging on the line with us.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, good morning. This is Chuck Wigger. I'm at the Capitol right now and also monitoring another item, but I'm very pleased to be able to participate to the extent I can in your meeting right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Wieger, for being here.
Thank you, Senator Wieger. Again, we're just waiting for a few more people to log in. This is the City of North St. Paul Casey Lake resident update. Hopefully everybody can hear. We'll get our meeting started here in just a minute. And we're right at 10:30. I'm going to give people just another minute or so to get logged in for this meeting this morning. So thank you for your patience. Okay, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. This is the City of North St. Paul Casey Lake resident update meeting. I want our residents to know how grateful the city is for all of the partner agencies who have gathered with us today for this call. We're going to kind of go through an update of the agencies that help manage Casey Lake, what our responsibilities are, what we can do, and what our plans going forward are. So at this time, would like to just kind of have the panelists go through, and if you could just say your name, a brief what your agency is, and kind of what your role is with Casey, and then we'll get our discussion going this morning. So Tina, can you start us off, please?
Sure. Hi, I'm Tina Carsons. I am the administrator at Ramsey, Washington Metro Watershed District, and I'll be speaking today about our role as the Watershed District with Casey.
Great. Paige?
Yep, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I am Paige Alberg with the Ramsey, Washington Metro Watershed District. I'm the project manager and I manage our stewardship grant program.
Lauren?
Good morning, everyone. I am the communications and outreach coordinator with Ramsey, Washington Metro Watershed District.
Great. And Eric?
Hello. Yeah, I'm with the Watershed District. I do the monitoring, the water quality monitoring on Casey.
Fabulous. Morgan Dolly, please.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm Morgan Dolly. I am the city engineer for North St. Paul.
And Bill Buttigieg.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Bertoja. I'm the Natural Resources Specialist with the Watershed, and I've been involved with CART management in Casey for a number of years.
Okay. Ron Ritchie.
Good morning. My name is Ron Ritchie, Public Works Director.
And Councilmember Cole.
Where's unmute? Here we go. Then I turn the camera off. Carrie, thank you. You introduced me already. I'm Councilmember Tim Cole from North St. Paul.
Randy Miller.
Morning, Randy Miller, Public Works Supervisor for the City of North St. Paul.
Rob Dodd.
Good morning. I'm with Minnesota DNR Fisheries Aquatic Plant Management for the 7-county metro plus Chisago County. I work with lakeshore owners and local government organizations to get permits to manage aquatic plants in public waters.
Great. And then Senator Weir, would you like to introduce yourself to our residents?
Hi, I'm Chuck Wieger, State Senator, and lived on Casey Lake Park for 25 years. Very interested in what we can do to improve the concerns that have been addressed. Thank you. I'm here at the state capitol right now, but listening very closely and look forward to the follow-up. Thank you.
Awesome. And like I said earlier, the purpose of our meeting here for the residents who've been kind of on this journey with us is we've done a lot of research as the city and reached out to the agency partners to kind of find out, you know, who's responsible for what can we do, what can't we do, how do we as a team work together to manage this natural resource that is so important to the people of North St. Paul. So with that, I really would like to turn it over to the Ramsey Washington Watershed District. They have a lot of control, a lot of say, and a lot of ownership for caring for that resource. And I would like them to kind of give us an update on where they're at.
All right, thanks, Carrie. I'm going to share my screen. I just have a few slides to help start the conversation here. Let me get it started here for you. I hope you all can see that okay. Yeah, thumbs up. All right, thank you. As we did in introductions, my name is Tina Carsons. I'm the administrator at the Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District. I just wanted to talk about our role here as a watershed, and there's a lot of different agencies on this call, a lot of people that are really interested in Casey Lake, residents being one group, as well as the agencies that are represented here. So what is, as a watershed district, what is our purpose? And we've laid out, there's the Watershed Act. It's a statewide Watershed Act that gives us our purpose of water management, which includes flood risk and erosion control, as well as water quality preservation or improvement. And that's what we're talking about here with Casey specifically. But because of all these different agencies that are here, one of our roles too is to operate as part of this partnership with the cities, the state, the counties, and the residents to fulfill our goals. We operate under a watershed management plan that's reviewed by the state through the Board of Water and Soil Resources. Again, with our primary goals of being water management and water quality. Now, that being said, many of our projects, many of our programs have secondary benefits for recreation, visual appeal, but that's not our primary. Our primary is that using scientific standards to meet water quality goals. Oftentimes, we serve as a technical role for our partners. The city, the county, will call us in asking for technical advice, and we serve that as a consultant role quite often as well. So how those goals of meeting water quality look in Casey, I'm just going to walk you through how we use a scientific method to determine how to move forward when we have an issue like poor water quality. Here's some pictures of Casey Lake from 2010. This is what we would call a turbid state. You can see that it's not clear. You won't be able to see very far into the lake. It's mucky. It's dominated by algal blooms, and it's that paint look in the lake. Through our monitoring, we saw elevated phosphorus levels. We did fish surveys and we knew that there's extremely high numbers of carp and very little game fish population. And because of that, not much light could get down, so we didn't have rooted aquatic plants. So this is how we evaluate kind of where we're at in a water body. We also know that Casey Lake is part of a system of creeks and lakes, so it's an important part of that system as well. So that's how we, as we looked at a water quality issue, either further downstream, we want to look upstream and see what issues we might need to address. Just a quick timeline that shows, we're really not focused. We can't do quick. It's not like year to year to year. We're looking long-term, we're looking at trends, we're looking at goals, and we're working a process that's proven to show how we can improve systems. So here we have poor water quality, like those pictures in 2010. One of the first steps we did in 2012 was to do a drawdown to help address that carp population issue. That did help bring us to a clear water state. Including we worked with the DNR and the city to do some game fish stocking and winter aeration so that we can keep that game fish population growing. And then we moved to harvesting, and that is something we continue to do. And I'll show you that as we talk about what is our goals for 2022 this year. So you see we moved from a poor water quality state to better water quality, abundant game fish, and aquatic plant growth. And that's, again, all based on our monitoring and water quality monitoring. And like Eric said, he's on the call too to talk about, or to represent our monitoring program. And this is the kind of data then that we use, that we look at, that shows on the left, you'll see Casey Lake total phosphorus. So we're watching those trends. Are we in a downward motion for total phosphorus? And can we maintain that and sustain that? And we're looking to see, again, maybe one year we might have a slight bump up, but then over a longer term, are we holding to that lower, better water quality? On the right-hand side, that Secchi disc, that's the transparency, that's how far into the water you can see. So in that case, we want it to go up, and you'll see that, again, we're watching for that longer term. And you'll see between those years, 2012 and 2013, when we removed the carp, that transparency of that water improved dramatically. So looking forward, that's all looking back. So now looking forward, what as a watershed district are we committed to doing for Casey Lake specifically? We've committed to aquatic plant harvesting. We try to do that 2 times per growing season. So we're, trying to maintain a healthy aquatic plant community in that lake and also remove phosphorus from the system. We've committed to winter aeration to sustain that game fish population. We work with the city of North St. Paul on that. We commit to annual water quality monitoring. So we've had monitoring on that water body for a number of years. We'll continue to monitor again so that we can check those longer term trends. Fish assessments, again, we want that to be a healthy native fish population so that we can maintain that and the carp can't take hold again, because that was a significant issue in the quality of the water in Casey. And then we have other programs like our stewardship grant program and our education program. And so there, as I said, the residents, you are another group of interested parties on this call. And of course, there's things that you could do as well to be part of the solution to keep Casey Lake functioning as a healthy wetland system. These are things I'm sure you've heard or seen, picking up your pet waste, allowing vehicle wash into the lake, cleaning our drains from leaves and other phosphorus sources, and even collecting water and using it in a reuse system. Our stewardship grant program is also available to you. Paige Alberg is on the call if you have any questions specific about this, but there are shoreline restorations, rain gardens. There's opportunities for us to work with you directly on your property. Casey Lake has a fairly small drainage area. So when you do things on your property, that can make a big difference for Casey Lake as well. So native plantings, rain gardens, like I said, shoreline restorations, all those projects really excited to be able to talk to you about those as well, if you have questions about those. I feel like I
And
kind
just
of
so our residents on the call know, we will save time for questions at the end.
kind of zoomed through all that, but I'll look forward to hearing from the rest of the agencies and answer any questions at the end.
Great. At this time, I know he has a time constraint. Alan from Ramsey County, if you could just introduce yourself to our residents and kind of let them know what the county's role is in caring for the area around Casey.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I ended up double booked today. I've got a meeting over at Como, so I'm in my truck right now. I'm an environmental specialist with Ramsey County Public Works. I work closely with our maintenance department. We don't have a lot of stormwater BMPs in the Casey Lake drainage area. As far as we know, all of our catch basins that we're responsible for, they don't have sumps to clean out. They're just standard catch basins. So the extent of what we do currently is we do at least 2 rounds of street sweeping every year in that area on McKnight and on 17th. Usually we do a spring post-winter one to pick up all the stuff that's left over from the snow. And then we do a fall one during leaf fall to capture all that. So that's pretty much what we do right now in that area.
Terrific. Thank you, Alan. And then if I could have Rob Dodd, could you give an update to our residents on your role in managing Casey and the resources you provide?
My role is reviewing permit applications from lakeshore owners and reviewing project proposals from local government units and providing input on those, and then moving forward with the permits that are required by state statute and Minnesota DNR rules. So I'm looking forward to seeing any project proposals or permit applications. For Casey Lake in particular, we've talked about mechanical control cutting of emergent plants that could be at a property basis to gain access for recreation on the lake. Larger scale control can be part of a restoration project through the stewardship program. And we also mentioned controlling filamentous algae using copper sulfate on individual properties. Again, that requires a permit application through our MPARS system, and I've sent out directions for that. Any questions I can answer right now from anyone?
I don't see any hands up right now, Rob. I think we'll kind of keep going so everybody can see the entire picture. I do want our Casey residents to know that all the instructions and the links for those DNR permits is on the city's website under the Our Lakes tab. So we've tried to group these resources for you so that they're easy for you to find. Next up, if I could have Dan Scullin, our hydrologist, kind of give us an update on his role in caring for the lake. Can you speak a little closer to your microphone? We can't hardly hear you, Dan. We need more volume, please.
Maybe let me fix that, and I apologize for that.
Oh. Maybe while we're waiting for Dan to figure out his microphone system there, I'm going to ask Morgan Dolly to speak. He's a city engineer for the city of North St. Paul and is responsible for a lot of the fixtures around the lake.
Thank you, Carrie. I knew you were going to me next. I was ready. So hopefully you can hear me okay. Yeah, so I'm the city engineer. I'm a consultant city engineer working for WSB and Associates with the city of North St. Paul since about 2010. Part of my role is to work in coordination with the outside agencies such as the Watershed District and the DNR as appropriate on collaborative ventures. We do occasionally, not on a regular basis, but occasionally we partner with the Watershed District on maintenance activities in certain water bodies in and around North St. Paul. but also advise and make recommendations to the city council and also assist residents with respect to a variety of infrastructure issues. So not just specifically related to water resources or water quality, but that is one aspect. Another important role is my interaction with Public Works. We've got representative from City Public Works here as well too. So in partnership with them, taking responsibility for ongoing inspections of city infrastructure, reporting with the MPCA for our MS4 obligations and requirements, seeing as how the city does operate a municipal storm sewer system. And there's regular reporting and documentation that has to happen that goes along with that. And occasionally we get audited by the state as well too. So that's an important role to stay on top of inspections and again, documentation of all those things citywide with respect to storm sewer, storm water, and water runoff. And also in some instances, enforcement of our stormwater and water quality codes and ordinances, and also through plan review and recommendations to city council and planning commission for any development that might happen throughout the city, that developers and builders are following the appropriate protective measures to protect our downstream water bodies from erosion, stormwater pollution, that sort of thing, and also enforcing our ordinance with respect to illicit discharge. So it's a fairly multifaceted role, and this is certainly one part of it. I think I don't want to put Public Works on the spot, so I'll just mention that they are also responsible for the aerator in Casey Lake. So that is something that happens on an annual basis. Tina had mentioned that that's something that was implemented or added, I believe, with some grant money from the DNR several years ago. City's responsible for putting it in, taking it out, the electrical power costs to keep it going on an annual basis. I think any sort of operations or maintenance costs that go along with that. But that's an important part about of maintaining that fish population, correct fish population within Casey Lake. So those are some of my roles, responsibilities, and yeah, look forward to being a part of this group and answering any questions that might come up after this.
Dan, can we try your audio again?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay, I got that fixed. Good morning, everyone. I'm the area hydrologist with DNR for Ramsey and Washington counties. So similar to Rob, I have a permitting role, so I review projects, I issue permits. Rob deals with the aquatic plants in Casey Lake, et cetera. My role is more, I work with public waters. So Casey Lake is designated as a public water by the state of Minnesota. And that carries with it certain regulations about how those public waters are used and how they are developed. So things like if there was fill going into a public water, if we're excavation, a bridge, a culvert, the lake's outlet structure, those types of physical infrastructure or alterations, physical alterations of a public water are what I would review. I also kind of play a role, I work with cities on shoreland ordinances. So there are some land use regulations that are in place to help just promote good stewardship of the lands around public waters. And so I play a role in that too.
Terrific. Thank you, Dan. Dan, just out of curiosity, do you use the same permitting system as Rob does that MPARS?
Yes. So
Okay.
it's
So
the
that
same
link is on our
permitting
website
system.
as well. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Eric, did you have anything you wanted to add to our group of residents here?
No, I don't.
Are there any of the panelists who would like to contribute something before we kind of move on? I hope from our resident standpoint, I hope you kind of got a glimmer of all the agencies that are responsible for caring for this natural resource that is so important to the city of North St. Paul. What we've tried to do in this meeting is kind of show you our commitment to water quality, how we can provide information and resources to you. Again, weed removal, those types of things. But also we're hoping to help educate our community on what we can't do. You know, there's state statutes on this lake. There's different areas of responsibilities that we're all tasked with, and we can't, you know, kind of go out of our lane, to so to speak. So this is also a regulated area, and we need to follow state guidelines, watershed management plans, and the like. I think, you know, Tina struck on the issue really good about, you know, this is a partnership not only with all of these agencies, but also with you as the residents. And we've got some, you know, activities that you could do as far as, you know, permits, shoreline restoration, and also getting involved in the watershed and kind of continuing, you know, the education and the care of this facility. With that, I'd be happy to open up for questions. If you want to use the raise hand feature, I can promote you so you can ask any of the panelists a question. Again, this recording will be on our website, and we have added the links to the DNR permits. That's also on our website under the R link under our lakes. So that's easy for people to find. I will, after this meeting, also add the contact information for the agencies that care for that lake, so that we're all kind of on the same page as to who does what and who can help with what areas. I'm gonna promote Mr. Selchow. He's got a question. All right, Jim, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. We're ready for you, Jim, when you are. Can you unmute yourself? We're not getting any audio on you. I'll try this one more time. We're going to ask Jim to unmute. If there's other residents on the call who would like to ask questions, or you can use the chat box as well.
Good morning, everybody.
Hi, Jim.
So this is, I don't live direct, I'm at 2590 Diane Street, which is just tees into County Road C, about a half a block south of County Road C on Diane Street. These are the issues that I, and I think most of our residents that live and or use the park. First of all, the park is supposed to be the pinnacle of parks in North St. Paul. It's, if you look at our website, of course, it has this beautiful photo of the lake. However, I have got also a lot of photos of the lake, and it doesn't look quite as good as a couple there. What I see, and I could probably say we see, is we have aquatic weed growth. Although it's being harvested twice a year, it only lasts for about a week or two, and then the entire surface is covered with floating weeds again. So I was told at one time that could not be increased, because then it would mess up the aquatic system in the lake. But right now we're living with floating weeds the majority of the summer. Cattail growth. We were told by Ramsey County, I don't know if people know this, by Mike Schumann, that the cattails on the lake are the invasive variety. And I would like to know, and some of our residents would like to know, if those are bordering on city property, shoreline, if you will. And of course, we have residents that also experience this. Shouldn't they be removed, or should they be removed? And if so, who would pay for something like that? Because obviously it's quite expensive. Another question is, one of our residents made an inquiry and was told that even if their family did pay for cattail removal, assuming you get the right permits, of course, that you can only remove them 10 feet out from the shoreline. And of course, in most cases, they're out beyond that from maybe 15 to 20 feet, which really wouldn't do a person much good. And if their property also adjoins a city shoreline, does it make sense for them to take out their weeds if the city isn't going to take out the ones that are on their portion of the shoreline? Sediment, I've personally seen the inlet for stormwater on the south side and the east side. I'm not quite as familiar with the inlet on the north side, but I can tell you right off that the south and east side are loaded with several feet high of sediment coming off in, being washed in by the streets. So those I don't think are functioning properly, if you will. I think the city made an attempt at open up a little channel last spring down there, but that's not the that did not solve the majority of the problem. So, and that's why I wrote in on that MS4. I gave my opinions on that was not being tended to. And of course, when the sediment comes in, of course, it's also promoting more cattail growth. And of course, stagnant water. I don't live on the north side of the lake, but I'm assuming in the summer, those residents have told me that the smell coming off the lake does not make them able to sit in their backyards. It would be a south breeze blowing into the residents on the north side. So as far as the fish are concerned, I was there when they pulled the fish traps, and you can call them game fish. I call them panfish. And trust me, I've had aquariums for like about 60 or 70 years. And those are teeny tiny itty bitty fish, and no one fishes there because there's either too shallow and or the fish are immature and they don't grow to any size. So anybody that's fishing there lasts about 5 or 10 minutes and they're out of there. So that's my dissertation. I do have some questions that are buried in that, and we would like some answers to those questions. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, I was trying to write my list here as you were going through your list. So let's see. So first of all, you've got questions on the city's shoreline and possibly invasive cattail removal. You have concerns about sediment in the lake. You have concerns about ongoing weeds and algae, stagnant water, and the quantity and quality of the game fish in the lake. So maybe can I turn this back to the watershed to possibly address the weeds and algae, maybe even stagnant water questions that Mr. Salchow has?
Sure, I could address that question. So the watershed harvests Casey twice a year, and the primary purpose for that activity is water quality related. So it's not aesthetics. We want to remove a certain amount of plant biomass out of Casey so we don't have significant declines in dissolved oxygen in Casey, especially going into winter. So it's really important to remove a certain amount of plant biomass so that biomass isn't decomposing over winter and taking up a lot of oxygen in the water. So that plays an important function in sustaining the bluegill and bass population throughout winter. So that's a critical function of plant harvesting. Another benefit of harvesting is we're pulling a certain amount of phosphorus that's tied up in that aquatic plant material out of Casey. So that's a real plus in using that method of control versus herbicide work. So if we were to flog Casey with herbicide, that plant material would decompose, causing potentially oxygen issues in Casey, in addition releasing nutrients back into the water. And it's kind of a balancing act. So we want to go in, seems like twice a year is working quite well for Casey. If we harvest too many times, we could flip the system into one that is dominated by algae. So we kind of go back to what we were experiencing pre-carp control with the blue-green algal blooms and then the very turbid water quality conditions. So it is a balancing act. It's a sensitive system. Probably the number one message that we want to get across today is aquatic plants and shallow lake systems like Casey is really critical. And that is a benefit to Casey. It's natural in a system like Casey to have lush aquatic plant growth. So that's a very difficult thing for residents to understand. You're not getting a clear swimming pool situation, but that is natural, and it's a basic function of shallow lake systems like we have in Casey.
So does the shallow lake system, is that kind of what causes maybe some of the stagnant water issues that Mr. Salchow is referring to?
I'm not sure what that means. What can you define stagnant water? What sort of conditions are you talking about when you say that?
Well, I would guess one thing is that last year we had a horrendous algae bloom. And it would seem to me that would account for some of the smell that was coming off the lake. Obviously, it's very unsightly to say the least. And the stagnant meaning, I guess, that nothing is, because it's so shallow and there's so many weeds that not much water isn't moving. And taking from the people on the north side of the lake, I've got to believe that the smell must be coming from what we'll call water that's not moving around. It's just sitting there like in a swamp, if you will. So
I think, last year was sort of unique in that we were experiencing drought conditions and we could not get in to harvest Casey because of the extremely low water levels. So I think what you're talking about and a big impact to those conditions had to do with not harvesting out there. That harvester requires 2 to 3 feet of water to launch, and we just didn't have that in Casey. So in late summer, we got enough rain where the water levels bumped up in Casey and we were able to get in there. So that was somewhat unique. In years prior, we had more water flow through. We were able to harvest, and Casey from an aesthetic standpoint looked a lot better in those years prior.
Yeah, I think the drought conditions that we experienced last summer really did bring some of these issues to a head. Morgan Dowley, I hope I can get your attention. I'm hoping perhaps you can address Mr. Selchow's concerns about sediment coming out of the drain structures and maybe address some of the questions on the city shoreline.
Sure, I might have to defer a little bit to Public Works on the shoreline, but I'll take them one piece at a time. When Al was on the call from Ramsey County, he mentioned that there is some storm sewer system that discharges from the county road. So 17th Avenue is a county road, and they own and maintain some of that storm sewer, which is one of the outfall points into the lake. The city has a few others, and there's one on the north, which I believe might be under the purview of Maplewood. At any rate, at least the ones that the city of North St. Paul owns, those do get inspected on a rotating basis. I believe all the outfalls within the city are inspected every 3 years. And we're looking for disrepair, blockage, sometimes vegetation is growing in them. Again, I think I heard one of the gentlemen mention that we are looking for things that affect function from a stormwater standpoint or from a water quality standpoint, not necessarily aesthetics. I mean, that's an important distinction. We want things to be working, and aesthetics might be a secondary concern, but our first thing that we're looking at is something needing to be addressed or fixed or repaired, or is something happening there that is actually degrading the quality of the water body, such as an erosion issue, something like that. With respect to ongoing maintenance, we have not yet, that I'm aware of anyway, had a joint partnership with the Watershed District that specifically is targeted at removing any of the sedimentation plumes. I mean, those are not common in an urban environment where you've got storm sewer, which, as Al mentioned, at least on the county side, none of their catch basins have sumps, and those sumps actually remove or capture some of the solids that come off of the roadways before they can go into the water bodies. That's a more recent thing. Now, that's an older storm sewer system. As an example, when North St. Paul does an improvement project and we're replacing old storm sewer, adding those sump catch basins and manholes is an enhancement or improvement that we do when we get to that point, so that we can collect some of that sedimentation before it goes into our lakes and streams. And we also have installed in 2014 kind of a filtration side basin, if you will, off of the creek, which is tributary on the east side of Casey Lake. That was a permitted requirement of the Watershed District to do something that would capture kind of just that first flush of water. So in a 1-inch rainfall, that's typically your dirtiest rainfall, where the water is running off of our streets, hard surfaces, and that carries the most pollutants along with it, is that first inch. And so that side area there through the creek is designed to only take that first inch of water. collect that, let that settle out. And any rainfall that occurs over and above that amount just bypasses that little area. I was encouraged by the graph that Tina put up there showing, and I know it's not all just because of this stormwater treatment BMP that the city put in 2014, but 2014 did kind of mark the beginning of the lowest phosphorus levels as measured within Casey Lake. And that's a good thing. I think it was probably a combination of the city's efforts in terms of complying with watershed rules with its infrastructure projects, and also some of the efforts that we've seen with past watershed district activity within the lake itself. With respect to shoreline, Public Works certainly maintains the entire park area. Shoreline is going to be a part of that. Ron, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm not aware of any specific activities that you may have had, removal of vegetation or anything within the actual park portion of Casey Lake. So yeah,
We'd love to have Ron give us an update.
No, I mean, we have not done anything, for that. I'm new to this position, and, what our responsibilities are with some of this stuff. And, I would definitely talk with the DNR and the watershed before, we had done anything and go off of their recommendations for that. So, in the past, the years that I've been here, we have not done anything with that, other than, some inspections on the outfalls from the storm.
Right.
So.
Thanks, Ron. And I'll just end here by saying that, the city's not opposed to doing further inspection or evaluation in terms of the sedimentation plume in partnership with the watershed district. Obviously, it's a DNR water body, so any work there needs to be permitted by multiple agencies. But the city's certainly open to that. But I think, as has been mentioned here before, we need to be very cognizant of the fact that sometimes when you address one problem, you may cause another problem. And so we need to be very measured with our approach in terms of all the agencies here today. We don't want to make something worse by trying to just, with a knee-jerk reaction, trying to do something out there, right? So, but we've done it, again, in partnership with the Watershed District in other places where we have had done some dredging, but mostly for water, stormwater functioning purposes. It's not something that we have done specifically to remove vegetation or to do it from an aesthetic standpoint, I guess, in my history in the city since 2010. But we're open to looking at that in partnership.
Okay, and I think the last question that Mr. Solchow raised was on fish. Would that be you, Eric?
No, do you know, Bill, about fish surveys?
Is that you, Bill?
Yeah, I can take that. So yeah, in partnership with DNR, we stocked bluegill and largemouth bass, and really the primary purpose for that, the bluegill act as a natural kind of a biocontrol for carp and limit infestation of carp, so they are very effective in consuming carp eggs. So if we do have a reinfestation, chances are, if we have a viable bluegill population, we could keep the carp population under control in Casey. So that's the primary purpose for introducing bluegill. We threw some bass in there to create a neighborhood fishery. And during the first several years, kids were catching bass up to 18 inches in length, and it was an awesome fishery. So perhaps what happened is either those largemouth died off or were harvested out of Casey. And if the city would like to partner with us and DNR to reintroduce those top predators into Casey and create a higher quality neighborhood fishery, that's entirely feasible. But seeing netting bluegill in Casey is a very positive sign. And that really fulfills our purpose of kind of checking that management box for us. So an added bonus would be creating that neighborhood fishery, but that would definitely be DNR's purview. And that's something that residents and the city could work with DNR and us on doing.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Bill. Is there any other questions from our residents? Would any of the other panelists like to comment on something? I mean, what I hope we've accomplished today is to show everybody, really all of the cooks in the broth who care very much about this water resource for the city of North St. Paul, and everybody who's doing their very best to get us the best outcomes for this. I see somebody, John has his hand raised. I'm going to promote him. One more person coming in with the question here. But it really is our goal for us all to work together, and hopefully these have answered some of your questions. John, if you could unmute yourself, we're ready for your question.
Just as background, I've got 47 years on the beautiful, clear, spring-fed waters of Casey Lake. I say that with tongue in cheek. But anyway, one thing that I used to bug Cliff all the time about the sewer that comes in, and there's a missing participant here, and that would be Maplewood, because most of the water comes in the largest storm sewer, a storm sewer that the former mayor of Maplewood said that when he was a kid that he would enter it from one of the access points up the hill higher up on Raditz and make his way all the way down to the lake in the storm sewer, which was quite interesting. I don't think any of the participants here knew that that could be done. But anyway, that's where most of the water comes in. And I used to bug Cliff about having a sediment pond to take out the solids, as they're referred to, before they got to the lake. And Cliff said that Cliff Eichinger, if you don't know who I'm referring to, he said as soon as there is some construction that would be able to be tacked on to put a sediment pond in, and then one would be built. Well, I've been waiting for 47 years for one to be built, but I don't think in my lifetime, I don't have that much time to go, that I'll ever see a sediment pond being built at that outlet. What I did see being built about 10 years ago, and I don't keep diaries, but it was in the wintertime that the illustrious public works director for North St. Paul at that time decided to extend that sewer outlet from its outlet daylighted in what was an arm of Casey Lake that's now disappeared, but to extend it about 100 feet towards the center of the lake. And I could never figure out what the reasoning behind that was. When the track hose appeared in the wintertime to do that, I made an inquiry, what's going on? Well, we're extending it. And I think I called the DNR at that time and asked if they had a permit for that procedure, and that they didn't. And so it was shut down for a few days, but it picked up again. So I have a question for the illustrious group. Why would anybody extend the daylight of a sewer more to the center of the lake? I could never figure that out. That is a question that I have, because that just basically said that arm of the lake, it disappeared. And as I say arm of the lake, I used to have a small sailboat on the lake, and I could actually sail in there, and then admittedly the dagger board would get stuck in the mud and I have to bring it up and then sail out. But you can walk in there now. You're not going to be sailing in there. And what that outlet, moving that outlet of the sewer, just said, well, we give up on that arm of the lake where I thought a settling pond would have been nice. As far as smell, I've never experienced any smell, but I don't go near the lake. Why should I? I let my hill down to the lake be natural. You'll never see me get a lawnmower out on that. And maybe the neighbors aren't too happy about it, but it is natural. And the edge of the lake is being gradually eroded by bank rats. And every spring it just caves in. And so the spot from going from my property down to the lake gets harder and harder to get to because it's higher up, because the bank rats have undermined it. So that's about it. I can't, somebody needs to get Maplewood in on this little group also and say, what about your sewer that comes in from Mapleview and Raditz and whatever. So I think getting them on this group would be a positive. But other than that, I still would like to know why anybody would extend a sewer outlet further into the center of the lake. That's all.
Morgan, is that something that you can address or understand on that sewer outlet? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so I was not involved with that work. That was prior Public Works administration, and I can't say whether that was done in coordination with Maplewood or not, but it's certainly, Mr. Schmalz is correct that pipe does serve Raditz Avenue and some points north in the city of Maplewood. I suspect, and this is pure speculation, that maybe a driving reason for some of the work down there would have been maintenance related. It's not unheard of that a flared end section on a pipe may fail at some point in its lifetime, meaning by failed, I mean it's just not set properly. It may become slightly disconnected from the pipe and needs to be reconnected. But I don't think we can answer for Mr. Schmalz's question about why anyone would do that. It may have been, the most cost-effective way to address whatever they were trying to do from a maintenance standpoint, but that's pure speculation. I don't know that we can dig that far back. I think John was correct. It was probably at least 10 years ago, maybe possibly more, to fully understand that. But I think that, in conjunction with inspection of North St. Paul outfalls, we can certainly involve Maplewood Public Works and the Watershed District and see, what's going on with that pipe outfall. Is there any additional work that's needed up there? It's certainly a difficult location to access because of the backyards, and great care, I would say, would need to be put into doing any work out there, maintenance or otherwise. And hopefully with, if it was worked on 10 years ago, that they took care of the most serious issues at that time. But we can take another look at it with Maplewood and see what the status is. I haven't heard anything specifically wrong with it within the last few years, at least from my recollection, unless Ron, who I don't think you were even at Public Works at that point, right? So you wouldn't remember what was going on.
Yeah, I don't. I was just looking at our map on Data Link and just to see if there's any as-built or anything, and I don't see. I don't know.
No, it's because it's a Maplewood pipe, but they did angle the end of it. John was correct, so it did used to come out straight. They added another, I don't know, a structure and a stick of pipe. And I've seen that before, where if the flared end or the old end of the pipe is in disrepair, a strategy can be to replace that flared end with a new structure, like a new manhole or a new structure, to be able to extend the pipe. And why they angled it, maybe that was based on the grades out there, but that's the best I could say. Again, speculation on my part, based on seeing similar types of maintenance efforts in the past in other situations.
If I may add one thing, would be the east side where you brought the track hose in, or one of them, to dig out as much sediment as they could reach in the wintertime. That, or where that sewer comes out, the outfall as it's referred to, is on Ramsey County open space. There is no problem if you want to bring a track hoe in there in another winter that's cold and start digging out some of the sediment that's there, just like you did on the other side of the lake. So I'm not sure why that side, this side over here on the northwest side wasn't cleared out at the same time or within reasonable length of time, like the where the sewer comes out on the park side. That's just a statement.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank all of our panelists, all of our residents. I hope you found this informative. Every time I get this group together, I learn 2 or more things in my lake management coursework here. I just want to assure everybody that all these agencies have the lake's best interests in mind and are doing what's within, their jurisdiction. And we are working together. We do talk to each other. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows how we are trying to manage this resource. Is there any panelists who would like to add any concluding remarks before we butt up? Paige? It's all yours.
Yeah, I had one just to kind of answer one of John's original questions about Cliff and the sediment pond. So for those of you who don't know, Cliff was our administrator for a long time, since the start of the Watershed District. So and sediment ponds were kind of something that was used, John, you mentioned 47 years ago. I don't know if that's exactly when Cliff told you that, but we've kind of gotten away from those sediment ponds. So now we use other best management practices. And like Morgan mentioned, the city has installed several, around Casey Park, those big rain gardens there. The Watershed District in 2014, we installed 16 resident rain gardens around the Casey Lake drainage area. So if you notice those, a lot of them are still really well kept. We help maintain those with the residents every year. But those help collect sediment, and we take a lot of sediment out of there. We have helped every fall do a cleanup, and then in the spring as well. So those help clean up sediment that would otherwise get into Casey. And then there are also some of those other methods, just another reminder for the help we look for from our residents with the help of our stewardship grant program. Some of you have reached out, but if you want to look for ways, have us come out and see if a rain garden is an option on your property. It's great when we can do a curb cut. Both North St. Paul and Maplewood have allowed those where we can collect some of that street runoff, collect that dirty sediment off the street before it gets into the lake, and get some more native plants out there. And then also the adopted drain program is great. If you have a storm sewer near you, like Al said, and City Public Works, they only can sweep a certain number of times, and there's still a lot of sediment and leaves that come off the street that residents can help clean up and keep that out of the lake. So just wanted to add that.
Can I add on to that also, Paige? So I think it was the winter of 2019, possibly, the Watershed District also kind of reset the access ramp for the vegetation removal, right? As a part of in your maintenance CIP, I believe, and you access through Casey Lake. So that was some additional maintenance related activity that happened out there. And I also wanted to just mention for the public and for the group, as some of you may know, because I think we've been in conversation, but the city did apply for the recent round of 2022 aquatic invasive species control grants. And knowing that, if the city is successful in being granted some money, again, we would work in partnership with the Watershed District to see what would be the best and appropriate use for those dollars if we are selected. So that is something that we put in there just to try to take advantage of that program. More to come on that. We haven't been notified at this point yet, but we'll keep you guys posted.
Senator Uyghur, I see you're unmuted. Did you want to speak?
I just want to thank everybody for their participation. You're going to make the various slides, et cetera, available on the city website. And I think it would be good for the different points that were mentioned for follow-up, that there be another check-in, perhaps later in spring. And, for example, the discussions with Maplewood, the activities are going to be done by the various groups, kind of a big picture timeline showing how it all intersects, and to see again how, so that the discussion with the neighbors, you know, gathers momentum.
Councilmember Cole, did you want to add anything before we buttoned up here?
First off, Carrie, I just want to thank you for tackling this. This was a pretty big venture in bringing all the agencies together, bringing all the participants here. So I want to thank you for that, and thank you, Senator Uyghur, for attending as well. I think the information that was provided here was key, was critical. It answered a lot of the questions. It put a lot of the different agencies in the same bucket, and I appreciate that, so that all the residents have a better understanding of how the love for Casey is there, the aesthetics, the desire for a clean lake is still there. It hasn't gone ignored, and that we want to continue to do with that. And I appreciate Senator Uyghur's comment about moving forward for next steps in a big picture, just kind of a follow-up is a couple months down the road when we start to see things there. Also addressing some of the cattail issues. I know, Carrie, you're going to put some stuff on the city website for residents. But good question around city-owned land and county-owned land. As far as what steps are to be taken, do we have issues on those lands where, you know, where the shore comes to be? So I think we've got some follow-up. This was a fantastic meeting, so thank you.
All right, well, if we have no other closing comments, I too also want to thank everyone, especially all these agencies who took time out of your busy days to help get these resources together and answer the questions of our residents. This recording and the slides will be posted on our website here in a day or so, as soon as I get my hands on everything. And I just want to thank all of our residents for reaching out to us with your questions and concerns and giving us the opportunity to answer those for you. So with that, I wish you all a good day, and watch our website for further updates. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Carrie.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, everyone.